Hello, everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time tuning in, my name is Adrielle, and I am currently narrating a story of my life dating back from January 2016. In the previous episode, I talked about the month of August 2021, and in this episode, I am going to talk about September 2021. So, here it goes. So it's the month of September. It's the ninth month. Nine represents delivery. So I'm like, okay, Lord, you're going to have to deliver me out of the wilderness and into this promised land because I am tired, y'all. August did a number on me as far as like my finances. And I was just very optimistic with the month of September that things were going to change. So the beginning of September, I want to say probably like the first or the second, my mom did send me money. And I was so thankful and grateful for that because I needed it. By September 3rd, y'all, I sent an email to the assistant manager about the funds because, y'all, it didn't make sense as to why Georgia Power got the funds and my utility bill was paid for in August, but for some reason, Hidden Valley never got the check. So I remember sending an email to her. Um, I got no response. September 6th, I text my mom asking her for money again. I needed money for something. And I know I was very hesitant with asking her because she had just given me money. Yo, I text my mom about needing money and she gave me a pep talk, y'all. We spoke on the phone. She gave me a pep talk about how I needed to basically get a job. I needed to get a job and I needed to do something. It got me emotional because one, I believe she was right. I needed a job. I hated the whole idea of just getting handouts and, waiting for people to like rescue me from my financial issues. But at the same time, I knew I was in the wilderness. I knew that in that season, like I honestly believed, y'all, that God didn't want me to work. Now, mind you, I was still applying to jobs because I was really trying to secure something. I was getting denied constantly. So it really got to me emotionally because deep down, y'all, I was tired. I was tired. I was tired. And here's the thing, my mom had no idea of what I was going through mentally and emotionally. She didn't know about the suicidal thoughts I had. She didn't know about me having the mental breakdowns and stuff like that. But her words really got to me and it made my spirit just come down a little bit. But either way, she said she will send me money, but she was like, you got to do something. So, somewhere in the first week of September, I reached out to the rental assistance program because, y'all, I just couldn't understand what was going on with my rent money and why the funds hadn't yet been released. So, I called the number that was on the website. I spoke to a gentleman and he was not helpful. He basically said, well, what does the status say on the website? I'm like, well, it says submitted. Well, you're just going to have to wait. I was like, okay, I'm just going to have to wait. Couple of days later, y'all, I was like, no, this is not right. Something is off. Georgia Power already got their money. Something is off. I decided to call the program one more time. So I called the program and a woman picked up the phone, basically told her everything I was going through. And she says, wait, hold on. The people who are responsible for cutting the checks for the rental assistance, their office is across from her. Like I think it was like a 3 minute walking distance. She said, I'm gonna walk over to them, but most likely your check would have already been mailed out, especially for the fact that Georgia Power already got their check. So she's like, but wait on the phone. I'm gonna go to their office and, you know, see what they have to say. So she is walking to the office of the people who cut the check, and I'm waiting on the phone. She gets there and she says, "Man, what's your name again?" I tell her my name, and then she's like, "Okay." I hold on the phone again, and probably a couple minutes later, she says, "Ma'am, I just had a conversation with them about your situation. Um, so typically, once you get approved, they send out the check the next day. You were approved on the 28th of July. So the funds got out the 29th of July. So I don't know what's going on with your apartment complex. Maybe you want to talk to them. Probably the check is in someone's desk or in someone's mailbox that they forgot to take out. But she says, ma'am, the check was already released since July 29. And I said, thank you so much. Like, yeah, I was super thankful and grateful for that lady for what she did for me. I said, I told her thank you, and I would definitely reach out to the manager at my complex. I was like, yo, I knew it. I knew it. Cause y'all, it didn't make sense. Like I said, Georgia Power already got their check. It didn't make sense that Hidden Valley hadn't gotten their check. Y'all, that check was released since July 29. This was first week of September, almost 6 weeks at this point, y'all. So I'm like, what is going on? What is Pepper up to? Because if the check was already released, Pepper already got it. So why is she coming to my door with the police officer? So I said, you know what? I need to book an appointment. So September 9, I booked an appointment to see the manager. I went to the leasing office to book the appointment for 10 a.m. the next day, which was September 10. September 10, yo, I go to the appointment and I get to the office. I say to the leasing consultant that I have an appointment with Pepper. So he's like, "Hey, what's your apartment number?" So my apartment number's apartment 16. Y'all, he is looking at the computer screen like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I'm like, what is he doing? He gets up and goes to Pepper's office. So I'm wondering what is going on. He has this little chat with her. He comes back to to his desk and he's going through the computer screen and he says, you said you have an appointment with Pepper this morning at 10 o'clock? And I said, yes. He says, well, you're not in the system. And I approached her thinking she has it on her computer and she says she doesn't. And she won't be able to see you right now because she has to leave. And I'm like, are you serious? I'm like, I came to the office yesterday to book an appointment. He says, ma'am, there's no appointment on our system. And she can't see you right now. She has to go. So I said, okay, can I book another appointment? He's like, sure. So he books an appointment for September 13th. He books an appointment for September 13th, and it was 10 a.m. I leave. I probably like went out or so. I go back into my apartment, y'all. Go back to my apartment complex, I meant to say. Go back to my apartment complex. I go into the parking lot of my place and I'm sitting in my car, y'all. I'm sitting in my car and I'm like, this doesn't make sense. And here's the thing with me when things don't make sense to me, y'all, I honestly believe something spiritual is going on. Y'all, the Zoom meeting, she was late. She sent in the documents, so signed the documents almost 2 weeks after she got them. She came to my door with a police officer. Every time I try to see her, I have to book an appointment. There's some type of obstruction going on with Pepper and this rental assistance. So I'm like, I honestly believe that the devil was using her. I honestly believe the devil was using her as a way to hinder my stay in Hidden Valley. From that day on till further into 2021, I realized that, y'all, the devil was using Pepper and he was using her because there was a spirit operating through her. And the spirit that was operating through Pepper was the spirit of delay. Because if my rental assistance was delayed, there was a possibility I wasn't going to get any rental assistance. And there's a possibility of me not being able to pay my rent, possibility of me getting evicted, possibility of me moving out of Hidden Valley, and possibility of me leaving Georgia entirely. I'm like, okay, now I peep what's going on. I need to pray. So ever since then, y'all, I started praying concerning the rental assistance. I remember telling God, like, Lord, please remove every roadblocks, every obstruction, every delay that the enemy is putting in this rental assistance, Lord, remove it. September 13th, y'all, I go to this appointment. Go to the appointment. I say, hey, I'm here to see Pepper. They're like, oh, Pepper's not in today. She's sick. I'm like, are you serious? Oh my goodness. I'm like, okay, do you know when she's gonna come back? He's like, I don't know. So at this point, I'm like, yo, I don't even know what to do. September 14th, I get a call from the rental assistance program. They said, hey, is this Adriel Thomas? I'm like, yeah. So, well, this is the rental assistance program with the county. We're calling concerning your check. Um, we sent the check to your apartment complex 6 weeks ago, and it hasn't yet been cashed. So I basically tell her what has been happening to me when it came to this whole rental assistance check. And I told her that they haven't gotten it. So I, talked about my address. I'm like, hey, did you send it to this address? They said, yeah, this was the exact address we sent it to. I spelled it out, the city, the zip code, everything. They said, yes, ma'am, we sent the check to this address and it hasn't been cashed. So now I'm like, what's going to happen? Because y'all, Pepper is sick. Pepper hasn't gotten it. She's been a weirdo this entire time. I don't know what to do. So I tell her, like, ma'am, they haven't gotten a check. So she says, okay, is it possible for someone to come to the county to pick up the check? Because they didn't want to cancel a check and then cut another check and then mail it out, and Hidden Valley didn't get the second check. They said that they don't want to keep doing that. So is it possible for someone to come and pick up the check? I said, you know what? I'm going to go to the leasing office right now and see if I can talk to someone. So I go to the leasing office, y'all. I get to the leasing office and I meet the leasing manager. She's the one responsible for apartment applications, lease, and all of that. So I get to the office, I see her, and she says, hey, how can I help you? I basically tell her everything that happened. I said that there's someone from the rental assistance program, they need someone to pick up a check. Well, actually, let me back it up a little bit. They wanted to talk to someone from the leasing office. So she was like, sure, I'll handle it. Pepper is out sick, so I'm doing her job basically. So she was doing Pepper's job and her job at the same time that day because Pepper was sick. So I said, okay, someone from the rental assistance program would like to talk to you. I told him to call back in the next 15 minutes, yada yada yada. So she was like, okay, I'll be on the lookout. The best thing for them is to email me. I'm super fast. I can respond back. So as I was talking to the leasing manager, I was just pressing on her the urgency to get this check. And she was like, Adriel, everything's gonna be fine. Everything's gonna work out. Don't worry. I'm gonna email them. Everything's gonna be fine. We're gonna get this check. Don't worry. So I was like, okay. So I leave the complex, I go out, I come back, I get a call from the lady at the rental assistance program and saying that she spoke to the leasing manager at the complex and she wanted to know who was going to pick up the check, when. And I was like, okay, I would relay the message. So I pull up to the complex. I tell the leasing manager, like, hey, I got a call from the rental assistance program. They want to know who was going to pick up the check and the time they were also going to come as well. So the leasing manager told me that she sent them an email and told them that the community manager, y'all, they had an assistant manager, a leasing manager, and a community manager. So the community manager was going to pick up the check. She was just waiting for a response concerning the address because they needed the address to go and pick up the check. And I was like, okay. She just called me and everything. She's like, Adrielle, everything's gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be fine. She said, you know what? I'm gonna email you once they pick up the check. And I was like, okay, thank you. She's like, trust me, everything's gonna be fine. So all of that was, what was it, morning time up until like 1 or 2. Anyways, I remember going back into my apartment complex and attending a webinar for London. This was like a second webinar. So they had one back in July and another one in September. And I was just thinking about everything like, oh my goodness, where's the check? Around 6 p.m., I get an email from the leasing manager, and she tells me that the community manager picked up the check and it has been applied to my account. I responded back to her by thanking her for everything that she did for me that day, y'all. She was a destiny helper, like honestly. I checked my resident portal and like she said, like my check was applied to my account, so my rent was paid for, y'all. I was just so thankful and grateful. But y'all, that gratitude and thankfulness kind of died down right after because I'm like, what just happened? And the reason why I was saying what just happened was because, y'all, I thought to myself, if Pepper wasn't sick, yeah, I would have never gotten that check. I would have never gotten that check at all. Because I know for a fact if the rental assistance program called me and they wanted to talk to Pepper, Pepper would have, told me that I had to book an appointment. So it took for a Pepper to be sick in order for me to get the check. I knew this whole thing was spiritual. I knew. Thank God that I was discerning of that. And thank God he answered my prayers and he used the leasing manager as a destiny helper. But that really started to make me think about my wilderness season. Why am I coming against attacks from random places? Why? I don't know, Pepper. Why is the spirit of delay operating through her? Well, what is going on? Why does this wilderness feel like I'm fighting for my life? That was just what I was thinking about in my head, y'all. So that was what happened with the whole rental assistance. Next episode, I'm going to continue with the month of September, all the other things that happened. And yeah, so if you're liking an unlikely story, please like, comment, subscribe, share my videos as well. I would truly appreciate that. And yeah, until next time, bye.